Alright, welcome back to more of my journey on learning C++. To recap, uh, we got my sources that I'm using for education to learn C++. Um, what you'll need to be able to write C++ or any language is one, a text editor. For C++, you're also going to need to download C++ itself, as well as a compiler. Sorry. C++ is a code language meant for writing programs so far. That's all we've learned about that. The compiler is something that's used to translate what we write into machine language, basically ones and zeros, and then can give us an output of the code we write. Let's see here. We last left off on, get it pulled up here real quick. With this right here, currently have include code with what I know as a library, IOStreams. We haven't really discussed the libraries yet because we haven't gotten to that point yet. We have int main, which this is a function. Haven't really discussed that one yet either. We do have a similarity though right here. Int in main and int in these statements. We've discussed and figured out that these are actually considered statements. Statements end with a semicolon. But not all of them are statements. We haven't discussed that yet either. But we have discussed that integer or int is a type or keyword. And then in this case and stuff, we're using mynum as a variable name, which can actually be kind of any kind of variable name, anything you can think of, X, Y, Z, A, B, whatever. We haven't really discussed names too much either yet. So even with this simple code, we have not really deciphered all of what this is yet. We've figured out the integer part. We haven't discussed the function yet, anything to do with functions, which this is a function. We've figured out how to output stuff into a terminal. We've figured out how to put things into a window and stuff. But so far, the sources that I've looked through and stuff have actually not mentioned any of this. This is just stuff that I've kind of figured out along the way. I'm kind of jumping ahead of the current source that we're learning from. So let's get back into that. Displays are the next part of W3 Schools education for C++. The out or cout object is used together with the operator, the output operator, to display variables. We can combine both text and variables separately with the output operator. It shows some examples there. You can combine different types, which we haven't really gone through a lot of different types yet. We've discussed 5, integer, string, double, bool, and what was the 5th one? Character or char. We haven't gotten too in depth in that either. So we're kind of not really on a straight line path with this yet. But when we learn something new and stuff, we kind of play around with it and see what we can do with it. So let's continue with displaying variables. Now, in this section and stuff, last section and stuff, we kind of did that already with the output, the character output, and we've put together a string, a couple different strings, a math problem, and a couple variables and stuff that actually have a value to them. But in this section and stuff, it wants to kind of demonstrate how to get that done, which I've already kind of discussed. But what I didn't discuss was how you can actually put them together or separate them in the output. I mean, I kind of have, but I kind of haven't. So let's clear this out right here and start fresh with that. So, in fact, let's clear all this out because we kind of know about all this now and start fresh with all this. So the first thing we're going to do is write a statement using integer type, um, keyword, give it a name. In this case, the example shows my age, not my actual age, but it's just an example. And it's going to declare it as 35. So we got a statement that declares a type, keyword. The variable is going to have the name my age. And the value is going to be 35. So we already know that we can put text into output, which shows up in a terminal. Now, in this example, again, it still doesn't use std : it uses just the out. So if you were to follow the example precisely and stuff, you would actually have to have using namespace std semicolon at the very top. But I kind of showed my last video and stuff where that's kind of not a good way of doing things. I mean, you can do it that way, but like I said, how you do things is kind of vary in the code and how you put together the code or the program or the file. So let's type up the rest of this example here. std : output, nope, cout output, double quotes, I am for the string, output my age, the variable, output, double colon, and now there it is adding a space and stuff. And again, I want to explain why we're adding a space, but let's get to this first. Let's finish up putting this in years, uh, old with a period, and then in the statement. Go ahead and save it there. Now, before and stuff, when we were doing this and everything, the text, when it came to putting it in the output, would actually come together. Let's put another one here to show that. Standard output I am, another output, double quotes, years, old, period, in the statement. And for just for now, we're going to go ahead and quote this or comment this out so it doesn't count. We're going to go ahead and save that, and you can kind of see how not adding a space in the front of years puts the two lines together to where there actually is no space between I am and, or the word am and years. We add that space in there, we resave it, run the code again, and it looks better to us. Now, again, the compiler ignores spaces, but when it's in a text or string like this and stuff, it's not going to ignore it. It's going to put it in just the way you have it. Remember that for all of your programming. And you're probably going to make mistakes, and that's fine. You're going to see those mistakes, and you're going to be able to correct those mistakes really easily and stuff. And those mistakes are part of all the learning. So let's go ahead and reset this code back to the example. We're going to go and get rid of this. Get rid of the comment there. Resave it, and run the code again. Now, again, the example does have the space in there. We forgot to put the space in there, which goes right here. So you end up with I am and then a 35 without a space, years old. So let's go ahead and add that space in there. Resave it again. Run the code one more time. and then go through this. So here we're putting a string, a variable, and another string together. Okay, we got a space after the am so that the number 35 right here, which is represented by the variable, comes in play and stuff. There's space between it, space after it, and stuff that way. And you got to kind of remember that every time you have the variable in there, the variable does not include spaces in it. You can put spaces in it, but then you're gonna have to turn it into a string somehow with the variable, and we're gonna have all kinds of ways of manipulating this at that point in time. Right now, we're just trying to do something simple. We're trying to do as the example shows, display the variable for 1, which is 35. The variable my age, it represents 35. We're putting spaces in there and stuff to separate everything so when it comes out into the text, it looks proper, looks the way we're used to seeing it. This would be us giving very, very extreme detailed instructions on how this should be represented in a sentence. Okay. Now, the next part of this, you can combine different types, which you will learn more about in later chapters, but different types. So, uh, another type is a double. We've already got 2 right here as it is. A string, um, or 2 strings and stuff mixed with a integer. Um, Now, what if we wanted to add more to it and stuff? So, let's say instead of saying I am 35 years old, if we put a name to that, if we put a height to that, a weight to that, um, how would we do that? Well, let's see here. We got the age. What about the name? So let's say John Doe. John and Doe. So these are strings right here. But unfortunately, these strings, we can't just add them in there like this. I mean, we could write it out and stuff, but what's the point of writing it all out and stuff when we can do it a little bit simpler? We can simply put backspace, enter, create a new line, and actually use the keyword string, type string. So string, give it a name, a variable name, my name, and then equal space, end line, and end the statement. Here's the downside about this. So we are using string right here. Okay, string is another one of those words that go along with uh, the output right here, this cout. But it doesn't work without the first part of it. And in this case, even if we add it in standard, it still will not work. Actually, it does. I thought we had to have something else in there. So they must have changed that and stuff, so I didn't realize they did. So we did add that in there, and now that works. The downside about this and stuff is John doesn't work. Remember, any string must have quotes in it. So we add the quotes, the double quotes to the front and to the back. And now that statement is working. So now we have an age, a name, but we still have a last name too here. So let's go ahead and add that in there as well. Standard string my name equals Doe, the double quotes on both sides. Oops. And then in the statement. Okay, so that works. Here's a thing though. Before, when we did this same thing, we had multiple times of having x equaled 25, um, or x is 25, and then we changed it and stuff and had x is 35 or 50 or 100 or 200 or whatever and stuff. And I mean, we changed it multiple times. Example of that would be here. Yeah. So an example of that would be integer x is 5, and then we had another statement down here saying x is 10, and then we have another one down here saying x is 15. Okay, so we've changed it 3 different times. Starting with 5, then we change it to 10, then we change it to 15 again. So after this reads through it and comes from top to bottom, x becomes 15 at the very end. 10 and 5 are no longer exist. Well, the same thing is happening here. We got the original right here, but then we got it renamed and a new one right here. So now my name is no longer John. John no longer exists. Doe does. How would we put John Doe into this as 2 different ones, or just one? I mean, yes, we could take this out right here, put a space here, and put Doe in there. That would work. That's one way. And now instead of having John Doe in the text, we can just use this right here. So this is 4 key entries, where this is going to end up being 8 key entries. So we're just kind of reducing it down a little bit, 6 from 8. We could also do it this way too. Have the, instead of my name, first name, last name. And then get rid of the Doe part of it. So now we have a first name and a last name. And they are 2 different variable names. So now there is no replacing one another. Let's go ahead and get rid of this right here. So why would you do all this extra work right here when you just put this in here simply? So, I mean, if we wanted to do this simple and stuff, we would simply just put in, let's go ahead and do this right here. Go ahead and make another one. Put this back up here. Just simply just do string output. Oops. Quotes, my name is John Doe. Period. I am 35 years old. Period. Why not just do that? Sorry, hold on. Also in that statement right there. So why wouldn't we just do that? Well, that works fine, but what if we have multiple people? Multiple first names. I mean, this is just counting one person. We got one person's first name, one person's age, and it's going into a statement. And yes, all this code does work. We can save it and run it, and here's what we get. Unfortunately, it's all on the same line, so if we want different lines, we would have to do add that part to it right there, new space or new line, save it again, run it again, and now you have 2 different lines right there. Okay, even though you really don't need a second line. But why would you do this right here? Why wouldn't you do it like this 15 times or whatever? Well, you could, but with most programs or code languages, including C++, you can actually put multiple people in for first name, multiple people in for last name, multiple people in for my age, and type it out to where you got 15 different, or just one output, and it's using 15 different names. We haven't gotten to that part yet, but this is just kind of the basics, and that's why we're starting with this. So in this case right here, if we want to get to that point, we got to figure out how to get this right here put into this output line without having to write all this text. Because I mean, if we end up having 15 different people and stuff, we don't want to be writing this out 15 different times. We'd rather just write it out once and stuff, and then have it mention all the names and stuff each time. Let the compiler and the computer do all the work while we just simply put in the first name, the last name, and the age. Or if we're going to add height to it, integer, actually no, double. And this is where the next keyword comes into play, double. We're going to put height in equals 6.2 in the statement. Okay, so 6.2, we really don't, I mean, we know that 6.2 represents a height, so most likely it's going to be feet, but we're not to that point yet. So now we have another one. Add in a weight, so another double. Like I said, integers don't have decimal points in them. Doubles do. Why not use a double for an integer? We're going to get to that later on. So we need a weight, H or W, there we go, equals, let's say, 175.75. 175 pounds, 75. 175.75 pounds. Yeah, there we go. Said it right once, finally. Let's go ahead and get rid of this too so we have more space up here. So now we got an age, a first name, a last name, a weight, and a height. Again, 15 people like this and stuff right here. You're just going to want to be able to input the age, the name, the last name, all this stuff one time. In this case and stuff, yes, we got it all one time. We're going to put it in one sentence and stuff. It's just going to be easier to actually just type it out like this right here instead of actually typing it out with all this stuff in there. But if we have multiple people, there is a way in this program in C++ to put those multiple ages, multiple first names, multiple last names, multiple weights, heights, all that stuff into it and stuff and have it type out 15 sentences for us where we were only typing out one. So let's go ahead and change this and see how this one output would look like. Let's get rid of all this right here. And how would this look? So let's rewrite this statement right here. First thing would be first. You're still going to need a little bit of text in there. So my name is space to give it space for the actual name. We're going to get rid of this right here to make it easier on myself. The output operator. And then first name. Another output operator. Here's kind of a tricky part, okay? We want the first and last name to go together, but we don't want them to actually go together. We need a space in between them. So we're going to simply add a double quote and put a space right there, an empty space. It sees the double quotes, it sees the empty space in there, so it's going to add that into it. Now we're going to end up running out of room here. So we're going to go to the next line. Instead of putting standard output again, we're just going to put another output operator right there. Put the last name in there. Last name. Sorry. Obviously the processor's running a little bit hard. It must be downloading something. Anyways, let's keep going with this. Last name. So my name is first name, last name, double quotes, no space, I am, space, another space. So we're kind of doing this in one sentence, but I mean, we're putting a lot of information in here. Now, like I said, if we had 15 people, we'd have to be doing this 15 different times with all this information. It's just, there's a simpler way to do it. We haven't got there yet, though. So, my name, I am, my age, double quotes, space, years old, period, um, space, I am, space, height, and way, space, weight. And then a new line. Now, again, we can do this a couple different ways, but I'm just going to do it the simpler way, this one right here. End statement. Okay, so we got a few things in here. We got a lot of strings in here, obviously. We got a first name in there, last name in there, an age, a weight, a height. Okay, if you had 15 people and you had that input in there for 15 different people and stuff, this right here would actually work to put 15 people in here, and it would create 15 different lines with proper coding. We don't have that yet. We haven't gotten to that yet. That's perfectly fine. Right now, we're just showing how you can put all this information into one output. So save this, run the code, and there it is. My name is John Doe. I am 35 years old. I am 6'2" and weigh, put weight, yeah, and weigh 175.75, and we don't have anything to represent this. Can we add that in there too? We can. That's where chars come in place, but unfortunately, um, normally when you indicate feet in weight, it's no or height and weight, you normally indicating feet in pounds, at least for our standard, the standard that I'm used to using. So feet though is normally represented by two chars. You got the F and the T. Okay. Um, Something we haven't really discussed a whole lot is the char. Uh, in fact, I'm not going to get into that just yet. I'm just kind of showing you how you can kind of put this all together into one line and stuff. And if you can get multiple inputs in for multiple values in for my age, name, whatever and stuff, then it would all fit into this right here. And you would only have to type this out once and you just collect the data several times, which I'm sure you've seen and stuff when people, you go to the doctor and stuff and they ask you for your weight, your name, your height, your age, that sort of stuff. They can put it all into the computer and stuff, and all that information is right there for the doctor to see. And they can just continue doing that without having to type it out over and over and over and over. They just put the data in and stuff, and then they got a printout for each person, and then the person can go by your last name or first name or whatever and stuff to get all your information. So there is one way right there. You kind of see how C++ may be used, especially in a doctor's office and stuff, to get your data, your health, your information like that. Give me just a minute. All right, I'm right back. I had an interruption there and stuff. I'm gonna go ahead and save this real quick. I need to check for some updates on my computer here real quick. I know it's getting kind of warm in here because the sun is kind of beating into this room and it's warming up quite well. Warm enough to get the PC a little warm. So I'm gonna continue this here in just a minute. I'll leave this right where it is and everything. I will be back here in a little bit to finish up this video and stuff. So this will be a kind of a two-part segment. There's not really much more to go with this and stuff. There is, but there's not. But so until next time, I'll be right back.